Good afternoon. My name is Siobhan Rodriguez, and today I'll be doing the presentation on strategic planning and policies. If you have any questions, please direct them towards the end of the presentation, and I'll be in the back to answer them whenever you need. Thank you. All right. Now, let's get started. Next slide. So, during this presentation, we had a couple questions that were presented to us by the upper management and some of the stakeholders. So with that being said, I have those questions as my title slide, and then underneath of it, I can put down a couple key points, and then after that, I will elaborate more on those key points. So our first one is why cybersecurity a strategic and essential part of our core organizational strategy. Three main points will be protecting digital assets. Another one will be maintaining customers' trust and complying with regulations. So, as an organization, we strive to be the golden standards to telecommunication care with Lobes Telecommunications. With that in mind, we have information that we need to keep safe for our customers, and that is how we're able to keep their trust. We also have assets that we utilize to provide this great service. Lastly, it is important that we comply with all state and federal regulations. Within this, we have 7 key points to take from, starting with risk management, which is the identifying of potential threats and vulnerabilities and the potential to impact our organization. A second is the policies and procedures that will take place. This ranges from security policies to responsibilities of the employee and acceptable use policy of our technologies within this organization, and also steps into the steps that we need to take in case of an incident. Third would be the network and endpoint security, which is implementation of security measures and string communication capabilities to include firewall, IDS, IPS, anti-malware software, and secure Wi-Fi access points. Fourth is access control that limits the access to sensitive data and systems, including the creation of role-based access control, multi-factor authentication, and audits of user privileges, meaning one individual can't have all the access to everything. I mean, basically, the God-given tier of privileges. Fifth is the data encryption, which encrypts our data and in rest and in transit. This adds another level of security and gives cyber criminals a harder time trying to gain unauthorized access to our network. Six will be the incident response plan, which outlines steps that are needed to be taken when a breach occurs. This should include the steps and who to call to make aware of what happened, and remediation and recovery steps as well. Lastly, will be a third-party risk management, which is a cybersecurity posture on our third-party vendors side. Particularly, is to introduce our security network protocols, meaning our network can be secure, as secure as we can possibly have it. But in reality, if our third-party vendors are not taking security as strictly as we are, then there's no matter how hard our security is, someone's going to mess it up and we'll have a breach. Next slide. So this one is how organizations should integrate basic elements of professionalism discourse, including audience analysis, writing process, and the design element into technical communication artifacts. So 3 things. 1, we need to know our audience. 2, the writing process. And 3, design and tailor our communication to that. Meaning, when we create a policy or any kind of documentation to help our organization, we need to word it in a way that anyone can pick it up and see what they need to do without any doubt, and make sure they have a clear objective. The audience we need to write to are the individuals who have no experience in the RT world, but can read and understand this policy and be like, okay, so this is what they asked me of, and this is what I need to do. The writing process is when we pre-write what we want everyone to know, and then we outline the main key points from it. From there, we will create a clear and concise document to ensure it flows well and the terms that are used are not unfamiliar to employees. So when we say, hey, we have IDS or IPS, they don't understand that. But when we explain to them, hey, we have a best way to put it is basically what it means, and prevention system, intrusion prevention system, and then we explain to them exactly how that it incorporates to our organization, will help out a lot. Lastly, we would review and refine the document from the feedback we get from them. So if we put out a preliminary document, hey, this is what we're thinking about putting, what do you guys think? And then they'll give us some kind of key points. Well, I didn't understand this key term, or I really don't know what they're asking me from this. So can you please, make it to a point where we can understand it easily? And then from there, we go to choosing a clean and organized layout. We select the font, the color, and any graphics we want to add into it. And then once we're done and we get approval, we send it out. Next slide. This will be towards our 3 to 5 year plan within just in general. Later on in the presentation, we'll get to the organization. Year 1 will be like operational. This means risk assessment, vulnerability management, security awareness training, which is very important, incident response and recovery, which is another important thing. And then year 2 and 3 will be more of an operational phase where we focus more on access control, data protection and privacy, and cloud security. Year 5 will be security governance and compliance, security architecture design, and disaster recovery. So to elaborate more on that, the first year our organization would include risk assessment and vulnerability management, which is stated earlier in the presentation, and the assessments to identify potential threats and vulnerabilities. Security awareness training is an ongoing awareness training and regularly updated training materials to keep up with the threats and trends. Incident response and recovery puts an incident response in place to handle any security risk. We also conduct mock drills to test this and to test the readiness of our team. Year 2 and 3 will be our tactical years. We would have access control in place, which would implement multi-factor authentication for critical systems and role-based access control to make sure we have least privilege access. So like I said earlier, not one person has all the access to the world. Like, we cannot have that. That's a single point of failure, what we were taught in the Marine Corps. And honestly, that's a good thing to have in any kind of organization. And then we move on to, for our cloud security, we have security strategies and control set for that environment. And then year 4 and 5, which is our strategic years, the first thing on the agenda will be security governance and compliance with established governance framework, and to ensure that it aligns with our business goals. Security architectures to evaluate and select properly security solutions such as IDS, IPS, for example. Test and update regularly to see what new things are out there to get changed according to technology and what trends are a threat to the organization. Just like anything that comes up, first it was the WannaCry ransomware virus, and then it evolved to something differently. So we got to always make sure that we're on our basically tippy toes. Next slide. So this one will be identifying key organizational roles that should be actively involved in planning our implementation. So we have project managers, we have team leaders, and we have stakeholders. There's really no way to put those in a order, and no matter how you do it, it doesn't take precedence. So this will be the main 3 individuals that will be part of an involvement of implementation of the organization's plans. The project manager is the one who tasks and oversees the project and coordinates the task, managing the resources and ensures that everything is done in time. Then that trickles down to the team leaders, who are the ones who oversee each team and make sure that whatever their task They are given a piece of that project. It's done according to the plans that they're given. And if anything changes or any challenges should arise, they will address it accordingly. Lastly, the stakeholders are the individuals that have shareholdings on the organization. These include executives, CEOs, investors, and customers as well. They provide the financial support, resources, and feedback that we need to make this possible and to make it move forward. Next slide. This is the evaluation component of IT governance and cybersecurity frameworks to ensure regulatory compliance within the organization. It's a mouthful, but we'll get through it. All right, so IT governance. We have value delivery, we have strategic alignment, performance management, resource management, and risk management. I'll break those down as soon as we finish this right here. So you have, and then after that, you have frameworks. Frameworks, you have COBIT, ITIL, and then you have the last CCMI and FAIR. So IT governance is a set of formal standards and processes that are being followed by businesses to ensure that IT investments are necessarily and feasible in delivering the bottom line results. With that said, within those governance, it is broken down to 5 subcategories, which are I just mentioned now, which is value delivery, which is the technology. It is necessary for employees to meet key performances and analyze their clear roles, responsibilities, and expectation that teams must meet their technology investment. IT strategic alignment is where the IT initiatives are always in sync with the business objectives. Performance management is the operational activities in which IT is specific guide to aim to hone in to IT performance. These factors are used by IT efficiency, service qualities, digital adoptions, data securities, and privacy. Then you have resource management, which is IT resource management, but it focuses on the back end operation that dictates the visibility of IT initiatives like employees, budgets, and systems that need updating. Lastly, you have risk management, which is the protocol taken for every technology-driven initiative put in place. Other categories in this, include risk identification, risk assessment, risk mitigation, crisis management, and disaster recovery. So frameworks in IT include the Control Objective for Information Technologies, COBIT, is a set of guidelines that help businesses manage their IT process to ensure complete control and compliance. And then you have ITIL, which is Information Technology Infrastructure Library. That is the best practice procedures and process for IT and digital service management. You have COSO, Committee of Sponsoring Organization. It is to oversee their overall IT operation, compliance, reliability, and safety. Then you have CMMI, Capability Maturity Model Integration. It helps organizations improve process and performance to reach their highest level of organizational maturity. And lastly, you have FAIR, Factor Analysis of Information Risk. This is a helpful tool for businesses to manage IT risk, often completing IT security programs. Next slide, please. This one is, how can you identify and formulate and solve computing problems by communicating effectively with a range of audiences throughout professional, oral, and written skills. So within that, you have one, identify the problem, formulate solution, professionally written and oral skills, know your audience, and seek feedback, like we were talking about it earlier before. So just like any problem we face in life, we first must identify the issue so we can better assess what's going on and how to fix it. Once we know how to fix it, we formulate a plan to fix it. When we're explaining this to others, we need to be professional and use words that others can understand to follow along. So if I have a problem or a employee has a problem with an IT, I need to explain it to them in a way where, like, hey, look, this is the problem right here, and here is the solution, and this is how we're going to fix this problem. So when it does come back again, they, number one, understand what it is, so it's better for us to know, hey, remember that problem I had a couple of weeks ago? we'll have it back again. So now we know the solution for that. We need to explain this to others professionally and use words that they can understand and follow along. Like I said before, this also comes with knowing the audience that you're talking to. So you got to understand the people that you're talking to sometimes don't always understand our technical lingo and terms. So with that being said, we always need to make sure that whoever we're talking to, just make the assumptions that they do not understand any IT technical lingo or terms. Lastly, we seek feedback. We ask them, hey, dude, how do we do when it came to fixing this problem, or how do we do when it comes to explaining this problem? And then, that you can make your assumption from there, like, okay, maybe I need to tweak a couple things or change this and that. Next slide. So when using the company, which is Lopes Telecommunication, I have the 3 to 5 year plan, and make sure it supports our mission statement and vision statement. So for that, I have risk mitigation and cyber training, access controls and cloud security, and disaster recovery. Lopes Communication strives to give the best to its clients and customers. This starts from providing the best service, to the top of the line devices in the market. We cannot achieve this 3 to 4 year plan without that. This plan aligns with our mission statement, meaning that during our first year of our plan, we will focus on risk mitigation aspect and also teach our employees about cyber threats and awareness in our training. On our third and fourth year, we will put a focus on access control and cloud security. Since we provide a lot of our services, we need to put the effort in security and giving our clients and customers a sense of security so it makes them feel safe and they know that their data is in safe hands. On the fifth year, we will focus on disaster recovery and plan to restore services in a case of emergency. So we're talking like a hurricane, an earthquake, or whatever natural disaster comes our way. Next slide. All right. So for this slide, we have a couple things. So we need to explain the differences between policy, standards, guidelines, and procedures. And then on the next column, we have the different types of cybersecurity frameworks for our organization that would apply, basically. So on the first column, policy is a formal statement made to be supported by senior management. A standard is a mandatory courses of action or rules given to our formal policy. So basically, in simple terms, our standards that we have gives and supports and gives direction to our policy. So they work hand in hand on one another. And then you have procedures, a detailed step-by-step instruction to achieve a given goal or mandate. Guidelines are recommendations to users that we do not have specific standards for. So if you don't have a standard or any kind of documentation for that, we have a guideline. Like, hey, this is in case this happens and we don't have those standards set in place, follow this guideline. So frameworks. So we have the CIS, which is a recommended set of prioritized cyber defense best practices. And then we have the ISO 27001, which is the world's best known standard for information security management, and it defines the requirements for the information security management systems. Like, they have to meet those standards. And lastly, we have the NIST cybersecurity framework, which help businesses of all sizes to better understand and manage and reduce their cyber security risks and protect their networks and data. And it gives the organization an outline of the best practices to help and decide where to focus time and money for the cybersecurity protections. And my last slide would be my reference slide. If there's any other questions, or if you want to talk privately after this presentation, please come find me. Again, my name is Shalon Rodriguez, and thank you for sitting in my presentation. Have a good one, and God bless.